might need a little insight. It's my pleasure and honor to be able to introduce Dr. Gaylon McCollough, who all of us know, and we owe him so much. He is a graduate of the University of Alabama and did all of his medical school training and residency there. At the time that he did training, or I'll go back for a second, everybody that doesn't know this should know that he was the center for the great quarterback Joe Namath when he played at the University of Alabama. And they've even recently had some of those football players get together, and he's been a great benefactor to the University of Alabama. He went on after that to do his training with Wally Berman, Jack Anderson, and Richard Webster at a time when the fellowships weren't organized quite like they are now. He's been the president of the AAFPRS. He's probably led most every committee in the AAFPRS one time or another, and is also one of the founders of the ABFPRS, our accrediting body for our board, which is a critical and important milestone that I think we all very much appreciate, not to mention the many dollars he's donated over years. But more than dollars, Dr. McCollough has given enormous time and energy to this academy, and I don't think that I could pick a better person to give the annual honorary Jack Anderson lecture. Dr. McCollough.
Thank you, Corey, and good morning to everyone. Let me begin by expressing my gratitude to Dr. Moss for the invitation to once again deliver the Jack Anderson Lecture, what could be the most important presentation that I've delivered under the banner of the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery. And over the past 5 decades, there have been many. Yes, it's been 22 years since I stood at the podium and delivered the Anderson Lecture. That was a time when the world and this academy were quite different than either is today. On a personal note, I've had the honor of knowing Jack from multiple perspectives. He was my mentor, my friend, my advisor, and shortly before his untimely death, an associate in my practice. For those of you who do not know Jack and why this lectureship in his name exists, allow me to provide a bit of perspective. Perhaps George Bernard Shaw described Jack in 2 sentences when he said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. Others see things that never were and ask why not." For the next few minutes, I ask that you put aside any preconceived notions that you may have brought to this event. Open your mind, travel back with me to the past, and see why the successes that were achieved in rhinoplasty and facial plastic surgery when Jack held leadership positions came about. By the standards that history remembers leaders, Jack Anderson's memory will stand taller than most. He decisively exemplified the criteria of greatness and benevolence because during his lifetime he gave more to his specialty and to this academy than he asked or took from it. As did America's founding fathers, the frontline pioneers. Along the way, Jack accumulated detractors and adversaries, both in competing specialties and within otolaryngology, which from this academy's inception viewed the AAFPRS and our certifying board as a besetment. Even so, Jack's commitment to seeing that rank-and-file surgeons like you and I could compete in the plastic surgery marketplace on an equal basis never wavered. It was for this reason that he and a handful of primarily private practice rhinoplasty surgeons pooled their efforts and resources to create an academy that was totally devoted to facial plastic surgery. Then, this group of visionaries devoted their professional careers to seeing that this academy and its members earned prominence and respectability within American medical establishment and on the international stage. For example, without Jack's tireless efforts and extraordinary ability to rally his frontline colleagues, the words head and neck surgery would not have been added to the American Academy of Otolaryngology's and eventually to the American Board of Otolaryngology's name. As Jack's co-chairman of this Academy's Public Relations Committee, I was honored to work with him to draft and publish in the Journal of the Southern Medical Association the article, "An Old Specialty Puts on a New Face and Head and Neck." Using logic and hard facts, the article presented the case to organized medicine why the name change was long overdue. Shortly afterwards, I created an abbreviated version of the article and circulated it to key facial and rhinoplasty surgeons throughout the nation. Dr. Bill Silver submitted that version of the to the Journal of the Georgia Medical Association, and it was published. That it was led to a retaliatory and defamatory rebuttal in the same journal, authored by 2 Georgia plastic surgeons. The title of that rebuttal was "Things Are Never As They Seem, Skim Milk Masquerades as Cream," intimating that Jack and both organizations' members were skim milk. Against opposition from board members who were aligned with institutionalized otolaryngology, a slander suit was filed. After hearing the evidence, a Georgia jury returned a $1.5 million verdict. In today's dollars, almost $4 million, in which more than 90% of it was earmarked for Jack to do with whatever he chose. Here's why Jack Anderson deserves to be remembered as facial plastic surgery's most benevolent leader. With the proceeds from the lawsuit, first Jack endowed this lectureship, then a certifying process in facial plastic surgery. Shortly thereafter, and once again against opposition from the academic bloc of this Academy's Board of Directors, the American Board of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery became a reality. And with it, facial plastic surgery achieved specialty status above and beyond that provided by the American Board of Otolaryngology. Not only did winning the defamation lawsuit provide the resources for a certifying board, it squelched a nationwide campaign of disparagement against facial plastic surgeons. The result of which was that hundreds of thousands of membership dues dollars that were being spent annually to counter plastic surgery's marketing campaign could be used for educational purposes. Without Jack's willingness to offer himself up as the plaintiff in the suit, the American Board of Facial Plastic Surgery would not exist. And some of you here today might be denied hospital and surgery center privileges in your communities. Regrettably, leaders like Jack Anderson rarely come along, but to this specialty's good fortune, he and a like-minded group of what some might unappreciatively refer to as old white men risk everything for the privileges that today are often taken for granted. In recent years, another small contingency of old white men, as I understand we've been called, have been maligned for pointing out that, how, and why the current version of the AAFPRS is straying from the principles, policies, and practices that once made it great, independent, and prosperous. Historically, second and third generations of individuals, families, and organizations, including surgical specialty societies, tend to lose sight of how the freedoms and opportunities they currently enjoy came about and the pioneers that made them possible. British historian Alexander Tytler brilliantly explained the cycle in which governments and organizations alike tend to progress from bondage to independence and abundance, and then back to bondage. As it applies to this academy, after it was founded, and with Jack Anderson and a small group of loyalists at the helm, facial plastic surgery came of age, or reached independence, as Bob Simon's book by the same name chronicles. It took years of unwavering faith and unrelenting courage to overcome the continuing resistance of opposing establishment organizations, including our own big brother otolaryngology. Only then, and with the same efforts displayed by America's founding fathers, including testimony by some of us present here today, before juries, state licensing boards, and the U.S. Congress, did facial plastic surgery earn the respect it deserved within national and international medical circles, and free itself from onerous disparagement campaigns and free trade restrictions that were stealthily and aggressively propagated by competing or threatened organizations. Deservingly, the ABFPRS achieved equivalency status to the boards of otolaryngology and to the Board of Plastic Surgery. In every state it was challenged. After years of battling for independence or liberty, abundance was finally realized. The year that I was elected president of this academy in the mid-1980s. Membership was nearly 2,500 strong and growing. Some 4 decades later, I understand that dues paying membership may be less than half that number. The question that should be answered is why? Why the reversal of fortunes? Could it be that in times of abundance, the Academy's leaders propagated the founder's legacy and honored the venerable admonition, unto whom much is given, much is required? We operated the Academy by the same frugal principles by which we manage our own practices. We solicited no grants from corporate sponsors, nor did we rely upon capital campaigns, nor loans. With twice the membership and battling daily for respectability in multiple arenas, we operated this academy with only 3 full-time employees, each of which left their homes and traveled to work every day and carried out the duties that were assigned to them by the membership's elected representatives. With the battle for board certification, hospital privileges, and public disparagement having been won, as the years passed, elected leaders fell under the spell of and became increasingly complacent, then dependent upon non-physician professional administrators and attorneys. As a result, expenses soared. The staff and leadership burned through millions of dollars of assets. Based upon available information, this academy may be facing insolvency, which would make it, or make what is left of it, subject to being absorbed once again into and dependent upon Big Brother otolaryngology, the result of which effectively returns facial plastic surgery to those who are primarily focused on reconstructive procedures, and ultimately the bulk of this academy's fellowships to academic institutions. If this should happen, private practice aesthetically focused members could once again become dependent upon academia, therefore giving our competitors the edge in a free market arena. Before you cast another vote, here are some of the questions to which you, this Academy's membership, deserve answers. What are the real numbers of dues-paying members? Is administrative overhead higher than it should be? Is it time to move the Academy's offices out of Washington, D.C., where salaries and expenses are among the highest in the nation? Are attorneys being overutilized? Is information about this Academy's finances readily available to you, the membership? What measures, if any, are being taken to curtail expenses and provide transparency? Knowing Jack Anderson as I did, I firmly believe that he and his fellow founders would want me to have this inconvenient and perhaps long overdue conversation with you, the current membership. I've been a member of this academy for nearly 50 years. I was one of the first to serve an official AAF PRS fellowship. In addition, with the exception of treasurer, it has also been my honor to serve this academy in every possible capacity of leadership. And the board of facial plastic surgery as its first president and a longtime senior advisor. I've also served as a fellowship director to 100 fellows, several of which have gone on to serve as president of this academy and the ABF PRS. In each of those capacities, I've witnessed times when elected leaders, administrative staff, and attorneys made recommendations and decisions that were absolutely in the best interest of frontline facial plastic surgeons. And times when it appeared that, let's just say, otherwise. For those of you who want to know more about Jack Anderson and the men who sacrificed everything to create the specialty of facial plastic surgery and the obstacles they overcame, you may log on to my website, McColloughPlasticSurgeryClinic.com, and download free of charge my ebook, The House of Facial Plastic Surgery. As I stand here today, I'm concerned that only a short window of opportunity may exist for today's leaders to return to the principles, policies, and practices that were installed by its founding fathers and restore the abundance they left behind. As I see it, the house and specialty of facial plastic surgery, for it to endure, several things need to happen. Rhinoplasty must unequivocally be identified with facial plastic surgeons. Since the term plastic surgery includes both aesthetic and reconstructive surgery, perhaps it's time to substitute rhinoplasty for the word reconstructive in the AFPRS and the ABFPRS name. The free market aesthetic component of the specialty should not be dictated by those who rarely perform it. Dissenting opinions must be welcomed, heard, and respected. Every hint of discrimination must be challenged, including age discrimination. Leaders must be nominated and chosen based upon demonstrated experience and qualifications in business matters, as well as those of an academic nature. The administrative staff must remain subordinate and accountable to you, the membership. And more importantly, the nominating and election process by which you choose your leaders must be beyond reproach. With these challenges looming, I leave you with a pledge that was often repeated by fellow Alabamian Helen Keller, the iconic blind and deaf woman who overcame the difficulties that life dealt, and although she never heard the sound of her own voice, became an inspiration to millions of people during her lifetime and afterwards. Although emanating from a world of darkness and silence, Helen said proudly and often, "I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do some things. What I can do, I should do. And with the help of Almighty God, I will do what I can do." During his lifetime, Jack Anderson did what he could do. He rallied and led a group of like-minded colleagues to see that facial plastic surgery became an independent and respected specialty unto itself, rather than an afterthought of Big Brother otolaryngology. Following Jack's lead and with this presentation, I've done what I feel compelled to do. I've shared with you this Academy's membership inconvenient concerns and challenges. As I contemplated doing so, I was inspired by the words of President Abraham Lincoln. As he provided over a divided nation, to his critics, the Civil War president said, "If the end brings me out to be right, what is said against me won't matter. If I'm wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right won't make a difference." Standing here before you, the current membership of a specialty to which I and a contingency of like-minded colleagues have spent our professional lives and untold resources advancing, that's where I find myself. In preparation for this lecture, I debated two alternative courses of action. Do I ignore with the warning signs, deliver a feel-good lecture, and then quietly fade away into the sunset? Or do I do what I believe Jack would have me do? Awaken and rally this Academy's membership to do what is necessary to preserve the specialty of facial plastic surgery, its certifying board, and its foundational procedure, rhinoplasty. What each of you can do is to set complacency aside, become involved, ask the hard questions, challenge those in leadership positions to learn, then share with you the inconvenient facts, and above all, demand free and fair elections. Otherwise, as history records, there is no future except dependency and bondage. In closing, once again, I'd like to express how honored I am that Dr. Moss would provide me with the opportunity to rekindle the legacy of Jack Anderson, for the unselfish leader that Jack was, and deliver the message that I believe he would want me to share with you today. What you, the membership, chooses to do with the concerns and cautions I've raised will determine for how long and how strong the House of Facial Plastic Surgery will stand, and under which banner it will ultimately exist. Thank you.
It's a privilege and an honor to give you this award again. Much deserved, and we all appreciate very much everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
We encourage everyone to